Hello, and we are live, and welcome to another broadcast from me, Troy Francis, on the Troy Francis YouTube channel. Apologies for being slightly late. I've had some technical difficulties, which I'm still kind of having actually, because for some reason, my internet speed is not particularly fast today. So apologies if it's lagging a little bit. I shall attempt to get through this. And ensure that this goes as smoothly as possible, but do bear with me because I am having some, as I say, some technical issues in the back end. Thank you for tuning in. What I wanted to do, RIP Lagnet. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. If it's really bad, maybe we'll have to reschedule, but hopefully it won't be. I am plugged in. I'm using Ethernet. Normally this is okay. I think just recently it's been really bad where I am. I think partly because of the whole issue with Corona and people being at home and basically taking up all of the broadband, stealing my broadband or whatever it is, and ruining things. But look, I should say regarding this, I know that I have experienced some lags on this show and also previously. This is something that I am addressing, and it will be sorted out very quickly. I'm going to be upgrading all of the equipment and everything to make these broadcasts a lot more seamless as we go forward. So thank you guys who have sort of borne with me, if you like, through this initial period. I am conscious of it. It is something I want to be upgrading. I've just been on John Modern Life Dating show. And obviously he's a guy who spent like something like 10 grand or 20 grand or something on his studio setup. Really impressive, really inspiring. I hope to upgrade myself to some extent, but it's kind of partly going to be down to where I'm based, and where I am at the moment, whether I'm going to continue to be based here or not is just something I'm looking at right now. So rest assured, it's all in hand. We will get some studio quality stuff coming up ASAP. But look, I hope everyone's had a good weekend. I hope you're settling into the week well, and that it's all good. What I want to do today is basically announce something very important, which is the release of a new book, or actually two new books of my stuff called Renegade Dating Domination, which is going to be coming out next Monday, the 15th of June. And then I'll talk about that for a while. And then as I talk about that, or indeed after that, if you've got any questions, either regarding the books themselves or just about game, dating, the usual kind of stuff, then put them in the chat and we will get to those as well. But what I wanted to do today was just to make you aware of the fact that Renegade Dating Domination is coming out in a week's time on the 15th of June. Okay, next Monday, 15th of June, it's released. But you can pre-order it now. And the link to pre-order it is below this video. In fact, I might even be able to put it in the chat. And yeah, I can put it in the chat. And the good thing about pre-ordering now is that you'll get it for a reduced price. Because the two-book collection, after the first 5 days, after next Monday, so after next Friday, the cost is going to be $69 for the product for Renegade Dating Domination. But if you get it now or within the first 5 days it's released, that is up until next Friday, you can get it for the reduced price of $49. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. Obviously, I'm being very bad in terms of salesmanship now because I'm not actually telling you what it's about or what's in it or anything like that, which I should really do. But I just wanted to make that note up front that if you do get on board now and you do decide to purchase the bundle of these two books and you pre-order now or you buy it before the end of next week, then you will get it for $20 off the full price. But anyway, listen, enough of talking about price. What's actually in it? What is Renegade Dating Domination? Okay, so in order to explain that, I need to go into a little bit of history of myself and my work in this space as a writer, as a dating coach, and everything else. And I was just actually talking about this on the show before with John modern life dating. So if you saw that show, you've had a preview of this already. If you didn't, then good, because I'm going to talk about it again now. So basically, my journey with all of this stuff was it's come back in several phases. Excuse me. The first phase was when I was a callow youth and I was out and about on the club scene in Manchester in the north of England. And I was basically, excuse me, and I was basically, after I lost my virginity, because I lost my virginity to the first girl that I was with up there at the age of 20. And after that, I became like a dog on heat, proverbially. I was on the club scene the whole time. I was going after loads and loads of different girls. I was meeting lots of different girls. I was having loads and loads of fun dating experiences and lots and lots of success, lots and lots of failure as well. And it was an amazing time. All of that was completely untutored. It was basically me doing a numbers game approach, basically, going and starting conversations with as many girls as I possibly could and trying to pull them. Okay. And I was pretty successful at it, but I wasn't as successful as I became later for various reasons. Then when I was about 30 years old, I'd moved back down to London. So now I'm based in the capital city in the UK. And I'd also started to learn about game proper because The Game by Neil Strauss had come out, which I think was in 2005. So I'd read that and I got online and I become involved with the London Seduction Society, which is was a forum for guys who are into game, and they would swap notes, swap tips, swap advice, etc., etc. So I joined that, and I became very sort of active on that, sharing my own experiences, sharing things that happened to me, sharing a bit of advice, etc., etc. And yeah, I got really involved in the whole scene, and I was doing a lot of game as well. I was going out and about. I was meeting all these different girls. I was dating all these different girls and having a really, really good time. And then time passed. I got into a relationship with somebody. I was with her for a while. Came out of that, got into a relationship with somebody else. I was with her for a while. So I had a couple of years when I was sort of out of the scene functionally, really, for the most part. I wasn't really doing any game or anything like that. Then when that second relationship came to an end, I went back into the scene and I started to read a lot of the new stuff that was coming out. A lot of the new stuff was more like what we call the red pill type stuff. So whereas before there'd been a lot of advice just about game, there'd been a lot of advice about, well, if you want to meet a girl and you're on a night out, these are the things you do. These are the things you say. These are the kinds of conversational topics you have. This is how you act if you want to ask her to step outside with you to have a cigarette. This is what you do to try to get her to come back to your place. There was all of this very, very technical advice about these different things, specific techniques that you can use actually out there in the dating field. But when I came back into things, and this was probably around 2007, 2008, I suppose, maybe 2009, I don't know, like around then. Now, the so-called red pill websites had begun to materialize. And of course, I'm talking about things like Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi, Chateau Artiste by Royce or Artiste or whatever that guy was called, Roosh, and the Roosh forum had obviously grown as well. So now there was this kind of like, as well as the straight down the line game advice, there was also now this kind of red pill material as well, and this red pill material teaching you about the sociological background, let's say, behind what was happening on the dating scene. So I got really interested in that, and I read a lot of that stuff, and learned a lot. Really learned a lot, and it crystallized, I think, a lot of things that I'd been thinking already. It crystallized a lot of observations that I'd made about the dating field, but I hadn't quite been able to connect those dots myself. Remember, Rollo always says that his job as a blogger in the sphere was to connect the dots, and he would connect all these things together. And you would read his posts and you think, yeah, I understand, I get that, I understand that. And it was kind of like, if game, if you like, is the how, then the red pill material from Rollo and those people was the why. And it's really important to be able to understand something of the why, something of the hidden workings behind the scenes, if you want to get good results. It's a bit like, what's an apt analogy here? It's a bit like, say, for example, doing what I do. If you have a website, for example, you don't need to learn coding, okay? You don't need to know anything about coding. And I don't know anything about coding, so I'm speaking from experience here. You don't need to know how to build a website. You don't need to know HTML or any of these other languages, okay? Hi, Tom. Good to see you, man. But it helps if you do, right? So I can run a website and I can put articles on it and I can put videos on it and I can sell products through it and things like that. And that's fine. But it would probably help me if I understood coding, if I understood a little bit more of the back end of it. It would probably enable me to do more things. I would understand more how the website operates. I would probably have a better sense of potential things that I could do that I'm not doing at the moment. I might be able to save money and time by fixing things that at the moment I have to pay people to fix for me. So in that sort of a sense, if you imagine that operating a website like I do is knowing game, I understand that side of things, the marketing side of things and the inputting text and all this kind of thing, but I don't really understand the back end of it, which is more like the red pill stuff. It's how it all operates under the hood, okay? And so when I came back into the space in around 2007, 8, 9, whatever it was, and I got immersed in the red pill side of things, it enabled me to see behind the curtain, and it enabled me to understand why the things that I was doing out there in the field worked, why the women that I was interacting with responded in a particular way to the sorts of techniques that I was using. And it really, really put a lot of meat on the bone, if you like. So in that period, I learned a lot. And actually, as a result of that, my results started to increase exponentially. And I think that was actually due to another couple of reasons as well. I think it was partly because of my age, because I was now over 30 and I had a property. I was doing well professionally. I was kind of better put together. I had more experience of the dating scene and of female nature and all of these things. So I was better placed to navigate the space. You know, I was behaving in a more attractive manner. I'd obviously worked on my game for quite a period of time, so I was just better at it. And what all of that meant was that in terms of my personal life, I was getting very good results, or I was living this kind of bachelor life that I think many guys would have been envious of. You know, I was dating lots of different girls. There was never really an issue in terms of where the next girlfriend was going to come from. At one point, I was dating several girls at the same time, five different girls at the same time at one point, in a sort of rotation. And so I was having these amazing results and this really, really fantastic time. And I'd learned all of this stuff from years and years of reading, because it was mainly reading then. YouTube was less of a thing, although then the daygame.com guys started to come into the fray. People like Tom Torero. Obviously RSD were doing a lot of stuff on video as well, so I was also consuming that content. So I had all of this content that was going in, and I was also walking the walk as well. I was going out. I was going I was out doing daytime approach, day game. I was going to nightclubs and bars in the evening. I was doing nighttime stuff. I was doing all of it. So I was taking all of this stuff in, and I was actively practicing it as well. And so I'd reached this sort of peak in terms of my career of all of this stuff, which, by the way, was all born really out of my obsession, I guess, and my kind of like somewhat addictive personality, if you like. And yeah, so I was really, really immersed in all of this stuff. And around the same time as that, I began to write articles for a website called Return of Kings, or ROK. And this was a website that was run by Roosh V, who's a very obviously well-known figure online, who's now converted and become quite an evangelical Christian. He's now stopped writing about all of this dating stuff. He's taken down a lot of his old work. He's closed up his forum. He just doesn't operate in this space anymore. He talks about religion. He talks about culture and society. He talks about politics and these kinds of things. But he doesn't anymore talk about dating or game or anything like that. But at the time he did, and he was a really kind of big voice in that space, if you like. So he said that he was going to start this particular website, which is called ROK, Return of Kings. And my impression at the beginning was that this was going to be a website that was focused on dating, that was focused on game and game techniques. That's kind of what I assumed it was going to be, because that was where he was coming from at the time. And I assumed that was going to be the main focus of the site. And indeed, at the beginning, it kind of really was. You know, it was basically a site about game. It was basically, and some self-improvement. It was basically about like how can you get success in your dating life, but also what can you do in order to improve yourself as a guy, so that when you're out and about, you get better results. So it was all, you know, it was all good stuff. And I was in contact with him, and I said, I think I would like to write for the website, because he was looking for contributors. And I said, look, I've had all of this experience in terms of doing game and so on and so forth. And I said, I can also write because I'd written in my professional life previously. I'd done some journalism for some pretty big name publications. I also had a degree in English literature. I'd done a creative writing master's program as well. So I had all of this actual real life writing experience as well. And you know, it was a funny bridge to cross really at the time, because I'd always really wanted to be somebody who wrote novels. I wanted to write quite serious stuff. I didn't really think I wanted to write about game or dating. But as time went on, and I was learning about new media, and I was learning about how the internet worked, I saw that actually this was a really great opportunity for me, because this was something that I knew about, something that I was very interested in, and I'd be able to connect with an audience, okay, through writing about this stuff, which I probably wouldn't be able to do if I was just writing my sort of pretentious avant-garde kind of novels, which is maybe what I wanted to do at that time. So I really changed my my focus in terms of what I wanted to write about. And I thought, well, no, sod it. You know, I've lived this life for a number of years now. I've lived this life of quite dissolute, sort of just going out and partying and meeting these girls and having these kind of crazy experiences and things. And I thought, well, why not write about that? There's some amazing material here. And also, hopefully I can draw out lessons from the things that have happened to me, all the things that continue to happen in my life and my experience. And I can pass that on to other guys, and they can learn something from it. They can see, can hear the stories of the things that have happened to me, and I can pull out lessons from that and give it to them and say, look, guys, this is what you need to do in this situation. This is what worked for me, blah, blah, blah. And so that was it. So I was in contact with Roosh, and he said, yeah, absolutely. You know, start writing. I think he'd asked for a list of, you know, prospective articles and things, which I'd given him, which is a pretty standard thing to do if you're running a publication. You know, say, well, okay, what are your ideas? I sent him some ideas. He liked them. And he said, yeah, okay, let's get going. And he gave me a really good piece of advice, actually, at the beginning, which I still remember to this day, which is, I said to him, well, which one of these ideas do you want me to work on first? And he said, well, you should write up the one that you feel most passionate about at the moment. And that was absolutely the right advice, because when you're creating content like this, you know, really you want to create content about the thing that you are most enthused about the thing that is foremost in your mind, because then the way it comes across is going to be the best, and it's going to connect with the with the reader or the audience in the most effective way possible. So that was a great piece of advice from him. Anyway, so what happened was I submitted the article. He put it out. I think my day was Wednesday at the time. I forget, but I think it may have been Wednesday. And the agreement then was that I would submit an article every week, so every Wednesday. I'd submit the article, I think, about 2 days before. He would read it to okay it. He would edit it. Then at a later stage, he got a separate editor on board who would edit all of the articles. There was a dude who looked after the editing for a long time before Roosh came back in and took it back on himself. So the article would be edited, and then it would be published on the site. And then what would normally happen would be you would get lots and lots of comments, because the thing was, Return of Kings was a very, very popular site. It had a lot of traffic. Roosh did a really, really great job with it. And so you would get loads and loads of guys reading it. And I would get something like, 200. I mean, at its height, I'd be getting 300 or 400 comments underneath each article, which is a huge amount of comments for somebody who, was not like a known writer or like a known sort of person or anything like that. I mean, I don't get that number of comments on YouTube now. I don't at the moment. It was a lot of exposure because he was getting a lot of hits. I forget the exact number, but it could have been up to something like 1 million a month. I mean, it was big. It was really, really big. So he did an incredibly good job in terms of bringing in the audience. And so what I was doing then was I was basically living my normal life, which is to say I was going out and about in London and going to the bars, going to the clubs, being on the dating apps, going out and about doing daytime approach, and stuff was happening. As a result of that, I was meeting different girls. I was getting success. I was getting rejections. I was getting, whatever was happening. And each week I would have to think of an article to write. So, and normally it would just come to me, normally towards the end of the week, I'd think, okay, so that happens. So I can make an article about it like this. And I can then, tell the story of whatever it is that's happened. So say I met some amazingly beautiful girl in a hotel bar, and then I ended up dating her for 3 weeks, or she ended up rejecting me in front of everybody, or this happened or that happened. And I could write it up. I could describe what happened, and then I could draw out a lesson from it that would make it applicable to the readers of the site. Because of course, what you have to do, what I have to do now, and what all content creators have to do. I mean, it's sort of like there can be a temptation to be very self-indulgent, okay? Particularly when you are talking about this kind of material. Apex Male Life, thank you very much. 23 men viewing. Help try posting some comments, smash the likes. Yes, thank you. That would be fantastic if you could do that. And cheers, Apex Male Life. Thank you for that. Where was I? You have to beware of being self-indulgent, because this, particularly in this space, right? Because particularly when you are a blogger or a vlogger or a content creator and you're kind of talking about your own life, there can be a temptation for you just to sort of like, suddenly you're just talking about yourself the whole time and you're not helping other people. And there has to be a balance, okay? I don't actually think there's anything wrong with somebody who's writing articles or blogs, or somebody who is making videos talking about themselves, because just them talking about themselves can be informative, educational, and inspiring, and all three of them together. But it's also helpful if you're sort of teaching as well. It's helpful if you're adding something that other people can take away and actually use within their own lives. And so that's what I was doing in Return of Kings, basically. I was writing about my own experiences, but I was also always trying to sort of pull out the lesson to say, look, this is what happened to me. Therefore, that means this. This is what you should look out for yourself. And it was an incredibly pleasurable experience, I have to say. And I got into this cycle of being immersed in the content and also immersed in the practice of going out there and doing the game. Okay. And this went on for a couple of years. I mean, I was writing for that website for at least 2 years and perhaps slightly longer until it actually closed down. And I went through periods of, contributing all the time. And then I think it dropped a little bit. I'd sort of had some gaps. And then I think it was around 2017, 2018, I went into this really golden period where I was writing. I was really, really focused on the writing, and I was really, really focused on game. And the two things just kind of like, they sort of buoyed each other up. And that was, I mean, when I look at the quality of the articles, I can see that in that period, the articles were really, really bang on. And that was when I was getting most engagement as well from the readers. I was getting the most comments. I was getting the most people going, they really loved my stuff. I mean, there were, and look, I mean, it wasn't universal. It wasn't sort of universal praise. I mean, there was a lot of people who really liked the stuff I was putting out. And there were also a lot of people who really didn't like the stuff that I was putting out for various reasons, or they would question, was I telling the truth? Was I a fraud? Was I faking it? Game doesn't work anyway. You've just got to have looks, money, status. So there was all these different criticisms that were being leveled at it, but there was also a lot of very strong support as well. And I like to think that the strong support was coming from guys who were also out in the field, who were also out and about doing the game, and they could recognize that I was being authentic in what I was saying. So he said, your mind says, bro, what was your best writing experience and how did it affect your game or life? It's it works. It sort of works both ways, really. I mean, there was a time, it's hard to say, really. I mean, like what I found was the two things went in tandem together. So when I was flying in terms of game, I was also flying in terms of the writing because I just had so much to get out. I had so much that I wanted to share with people. I mean, I don't think it's like my best article, but I remember there's an article which is in Renegade Domination called Alpha Douchebag Club Game or something like that. How to get girls with Alpha Douchebag Club Game. And the reason that article came about was I was in Ibiza, which is the Balearic island off the coast of Spain, a big party island here in Europe that a lot of people visit during the summer. And hopefully we can all visit during the summer this year because they're opening, I think, in July. So the Corona thing is sort of being lifted and hopefully we'll all be able to go there. They got loads of clubs and parties there. It's an awesome place. Beautiful, beautiful island. Lots of fun. Anyway, I was in a club there. And what was cool was I was starting to sort of like, this was becoming part of my job in a way. No, I wasn't getting paid by Return of Kings, by the way. I'll explain a little bit about how I was making money. But basically all this time I had my corporate job as well, which was why I was undercover for Return of Kings. I didn't have my photograph up there at all, I don't think. I ever put my photograph up there. I had like an avatar and stuff like that, but I had Troy Francis, the name, up there, but I was anonymous as far as anybody knowing who I was. But nevertheless, because I got this commitment to Roosh and to the publication that I would submit an article every week, it was sort of like a job. And so then when I was going out and about and partying and things like that, it became like a part of my job. And there was something really exciting about that. It would give me another reason to be places. I'm sort of like, well, I'm doing this for research purposes, like they always say. I'll be like, oh, I'm at this crazy sex party for research purposes or whatever. But anyway, I was in Ibiza and I was at this club. I think I was on my own. I was just having a drink, looking around, watching people. And I remember seeing a very boisterous, jacked sort of alpha, like stereotypical kind of like alpha dude. And he was hitting on this girl, very attractive girl. And he was just being very physical with her. I think he picked her up and threw her up in the air and he was doing all this kind of stuff. And she was clearly very attracted to him. And this was the sort of girl that when you looked at her, she just looked like a good girl. she looked like a nice, high quality girl. Do you know what I mean? And yet you could see that this kind of like meathead sort of alpha Chad kind of dude was really bowling her over with what he was doing. And what he was doing, it wasn't anything particularly like intelligent. It wasn't the sort of game where you're trying to be very clever in terms of what you're saying, and you're saying all these funny things, and you're influencing her psychology. He was just in there being a douchebag, right? And it was working. And so I went back to where I was staying, and I think the next day I sat down and I'd taken notes. I used to take notes on my phone, so I could get the descriptions right of the places and everything like that. Anyway, so I go back and I write up the article, and I write up about how this dude was a great demonstration of a kind of game that's actually somewhat different to mine, because I'm sort of like probably a bit of an introvert. I quite like to talk. I'm quite into books and reading. I'm a bit of a geek in that sense, and so my game in some ways has been to try to be quite cerebral, to try to say something clever or impress her with what I'm saying, or sort of like do some verbal bamboozling. And it just really struck me how this dude was doing a totally different kind of game, and he was getting really great results. And so that's an example. And that's not an example where I had any success or anything. This was just purely me looking at other people, like doing people watching and then writing an article about it. But that's an example of how real life and creating the article sort of came together. And I just remember that particular period being very, very fertile for me in terms of creating some amazing content that had come out of real life, and being really, really enthused about it, and just having an amazing time. And that, I think, came through in the writing of the articles. And for that reason, I think guys bought into it, because they realized that I was being authentic. I mean, the other thing that I was trying to do, by the way, is to be honest about the stuff that happened to me, because I think the problem that you've got when you're making content about this kind of thing is, on the one hand, you're trying to present yourself as an authority. But on the other hand, if you just sit there, or you sit behind your computer writing, and you basically say, yeah, I'm infallible, I just get girls the whole time, they just fall at my feet, it's amazing, then that is, firstly, guys are going to wonder if it's true or not. And secondly, it's kind of alienating, because for the guy that's consuming the content, he's thinking, well, that's not my life. That's not how it is for me. It's all right for him. It's all right for this dude to, that everything works perfectly for him. But for me, it's a real struggle. And so you've got to remember, you need to appeal to that guy as well. You need to, and so showing a degree of vulnerability is, I think, really important. And the other thing, right, is as well, nobody is getting, this is all the time, nobody escapes rejection entirely. Everybody will receive some sort of rejection from time to time when they are doing this stuff, particularly if they're just a regular guy. Okay, I mean, possibly in certain social circles, if you're that guy and you've got the cash and you've got the you've got the status and everything else, maybe you're situated within a particular scene, and that means that you're going to get more success than other guys perhaps not typically would. But for the average dude, the reality of all of this is that you're going to experience rejection. And really, the first thing that we teach in this space is getting right with rejection, because that's just par for the course. Okay, and so I always try to be very, very honest. Well, I say try. I was always very, very honest in the articles that I wrote. I would write about what had happened. I wouldn't embellish it. I mean, I try to describe it in an attractive, kind of amusing way, but I wouldn't embellish it. I wouldn't sort of say, oh, there was this Playboy model and blah, 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 if she was just some girl from the local supermarket. And I would often write about failures as well, because you can learn as much from failure as you can from success. Sometimes you can learn more from failure than you can from success, because the other thing is as well, in terms of the game, a lot of your success can be kind of luck. I mean, there used to be a thing called they used to call it fool's mate in the game space, whereby if you iced coffee. If you walk up to the girl in the nightclub and you say hi, and she looks at you and suddenly her eyes light up and she's like, "Oh my God, hi," and then and she ends up going home with you that same night, then that is obviously a good thing from your point of view, but you didn't really have to do anything. She just liked you. She was just attracted to you. Now, you could argue, well, she was just attracted to you because of the inner game work that you've done, because of your clothes, because of your grooming, blah, blah, blah. And there's something in that. I mean, for sure, there's something in that. But nevertheless, if all of your stories are just, yeah, I walked into the coffee shop and I said hi to this girl, and then the same night she came back to my place and we ended up having sex, then that's not really helping people, because it's too perfunctory, it's too mechanical, it doesn't reflect real life. Real life, for a lot of guys, for most average guys, I would say, involves a lot of trial and error, and it involves some degree of failure. And rather than shying away from that, I think guys should actually just accept it and just be okay with failure, because failure and rejection aren't a bad thing. They're just a sign that you're in the game. Okay. And look, I mean, as much as you have to get used to failure and rejection in terms of dating, you also need that stuff for the rest of your life as well, because you're going to experience those things in your professional life. You're going to experience those things in business, in sales, all of these different areas. So, nobody is immune to it. Nobody can escape it entirely. So you might as well just practice so that you don't really give a damn. Okay. And for me, in terms of the dating stuff, I think just going out there and just doing as much of it as I could until I became almost immune to the negative feelings around it were really, really helpful. It's helped me in a lot of that's helpful in a lot of different areas of life. Is this book simply a collection of your old ROK essays? I ask because that's all available for free in online archives. Well, a lot of it is the old ROK articles, yes, but there's other stuff in there as well, which I'll explain in a minute. I mean, I think the thing with the ROK stuff is that Roosh has taken down most of my old articles because of his change of heart. So if you go to the actual ROK site as it still exists, most of my articles have gone. Now, I'm aware, and I'm sure there are somewhere you can find archives and people have archived it and stuff like that. What can I say? I mean, really, that shouldn't happen. If people are looking at that, that's a little bit naughty, but that's everyone's choice, right? I wanted to put together a fully edited collection of all of that stuff, plus other articles from my own site, which I'll come on to in a second, as the definitive, this is the best of collection. I mean, yes, if you can find them elsewhere on the internet, then good luck to you. But I mean, that's like saying, like with Rollo Tomasi, the first Rational Mail book is a collection of all old articles that appeared on the Rational Mail website. Could you have read them all on there? Well, yeah. But do you really want to be picking through some website to find them all? I mean, that's, it's up to each particular person. I mean, look, I'm going to put something out if I'm going to put it out. If people want to pirate it, if people want to rip it off, find it elsewhere, that's fine, right? But I still want to put out my own definitive kind of, this is the collection. And the other thing to bear in mind as well about the ROK articles is that some of them really good, others were less good. So what I've done is I've made my own selection of the best of, okay? Because there's no point in putting in the weaker ones. You might as well have the stuff that's really going to that's really going to sort of like put you to that next step. So, but going forward from that, what then happened? So I was working for Return of Kings. I was writing this weekly article for Return of Kings, and I was getting good traction. I was getting good traffic from the readers, and I could see that I was sort of onto something. I could see that people were like buying into my stuff, and so I thought, well, let's take this further. How can I expand upon this? And so I set up my own website. So I set up the website realtroyfrancis.com. And I also wrote a book. So then I wrote 7 Laws of Seduction, which is available now on Amazon. It's within the Renegade Dating Blueprint. The Renegade Dating Blueprint collection. So I wrote that, and that was my first attempt to sort of commercialize this, if you like, because I've been reading a lot about online business. I've been reading a lot about self-publishing and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, well, listen, why not try to do a book? Why not try to put this thing together and see if people like it, see if I can make a little bit of extra money on the side. And the other thing with 7 Laws of Seduction was, it was the first time that I'd sat down and thought, right, I want to try to write out my system. I want to try to sort of put down my A to Z, this is how you do game system, which is exactly what I did. So I worked it out. I set it out in terms of these 7 laws, or 7 different rules to follow, if you like. And yeah, I put it out. So what was happening in the meantime was that I was writing more for my own website as well. So I was writing for Return of Kings, but I was also writing for my own website, because by now I'd started to realize that there was potentially a way forward in this for me. And so I wanted to have my own property on the internet, if you like, where I could put my own content. And that really came into its own. I mean, at first I wasn't posting that regularly there, maybe once a week or something like that, a little bit of extra content. And then what the big change for me was a year or so later, actually, when we got to 2017, 2018. By now I had a couple of books out, the website was going, and I was starting to make some pretty okay money from Amazon, because I had 7 Rules of Seduction. I also had How to Be an Arsehole. And I think perhaps one other as well. And suddenly the money that I was making from that was okay. I mean, it wasn't as much as my corporate job, but it was all right. You know, it was decent. It was perhaps, how do I put it? A sort of like low income wage in the United States or something like that. It was like it wasn't enough for me to live on in central London, but it wasn't bad. So I could see the revenue going up, and then at the same time I was having some issues in terms of my corporate work, and so at one stage I just made the call. I said, listen, I'm just going to jump into doing this stuff full time, and I'm going to leave the corporate stuff behind, and let's see what happens. And so that's what I did, and I made the jump, and I got out of the corporate work, and then I was doing full time. I was doing this stuff full time, and then I started to blog on a daily basis on my own website. So I was putting out an article every day, and I did that for nearly 2 years. I mean, a really, really long time, from prior to giving up the job until sometime in 2019, I think. I was blogging on a daily basis. Now, as it is, blogging on a daily basis today, and even back in 2018, 2019, is probably not the best way to build an online personal brand, really. Okay. And we can, you can argue the toss about this, but I think the truth of the matter is, I think the truth of the matter is that people watch video a lot more than they read now, and these days they're probably watching live streams as much as they're watching static videos. So things change, things move on. But I was of that sort of school where I was really into, and I've always been into writing. Okay, that's always been my thing. So I really, really hammered the writing for a long time. I was putting out daily content on the website, and in hindsight, should I have started YouTube at that point? Yeah, probably, but that's just how it was. That was my journey. And again, the articles from about 2017 into 2018, there was some real gold in there because I was really firing on all cylinders. There was some fantastic, really, really cool stuff happening. I was putting out some great content on there, and some stuff that I'm really, really proud of. So, and then fast forward again to the last year or so, I was starting to do YouTube. I had a different channel. The original videos weren't particularly good, but I was sort of learning. I was learning to speak in front of the camera. I had my podcast, which I had for quite a long time. So I was putting out this different sort of content. And I suppose through a variety of different influences, I started to just really double down and do a lot more on video, do a lot more on YouTube. And I started to become more comfortable talking into the camera, being in front of the camera, creating video content. And truth of the matter is, I think it connects with an audience in a way that you can't do through blogging. Not that I disavow blogging, not that I think that blogging is a bad thing, but I think there is a dimension to video that you just can't get through blogging. And so, naturally, I started to move more in the direction of doing the video stuff. I took down at one point a lot of posts on the website for various reasons. Due to different changes of direction and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of stuff archived for quite a long period. And so here's what it is, right? So what I did was Renegade Dating Domination 1 is basically a reskinning of the book that was previously called How to Get Hot Girls into Bed. So all of that material in Renegade Dating Domination 1 is the stuff that you've got in How to Get Hot Girls into Bed, okay? Renegade Dating Domination 2 is the rest of the Return of Kings articles, plus a ton of articles from my website that have now been taken down for 2017, 2018. And these are some of the best bits of content that I've ever done. This is the content that underpins really everything I've done since. So all of the stuff in like Academy, all of the mindset stuff, all of the dark triad, bad boy archetype stuff, it's all there in these articles, okay? So put together, you've got this product which is made up of these two books, Renegade Dating Domination 1 and Renegade Dating Domination 2. And it is a massive, massive archive of material, okay? So I went through it earlier and I was looking at like some of the stuff on this. I mean, it's like volume 1 is 200 pages. Volume 2 is 220 pages. So you've got 420 pages of material. It's 187,000 words in total. And it's over 150 articles. So there is just a shed load of stuff there. It's just a massive, massive archive of some of the best writing that I've done. And let's be honest, some of the best writing in the whole sphere about dating, about game, about the whole journey of being somebody who's living this lifestyle, who's like actually walking the walk as well as talking the talk. Because as I said, a lot of this stuff, it's all my experiences that I've then written up into an article and drawn the lessons out for you. So I'm really, really proud of this material. I mean, this is the best stuff that I've done over the last 4 or 5 years, okay? All collected together in one place. And it's a beast. I mean, there is just so much material in there. And this is going to be, certainly for the stuff from my website, this is going to be the only way that you're going to be able to access that material. There's just so much of it, and it's really, really great stuff, okay? So I wanted to create a product where it all sits, okay? And this is what Renegade Dating Domination is. So, you get all of that stuff, as I say, over 150 articles. It's longer than Catch 22 by Joseph Heller. It's longer than The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I mean, it's a big, big thing, but it's all indexed. You've got your content, so you can flip through and you can find different things. And because they're in bite-sized articles, it's easy to read as well. And it's a fun collection as well, because it's all about going out and doing game and meeting different girls and having sex and getting rejected and all the kind of adventures that you get. So the reason I'm putting it out now is because I want to sort of say, okay, that was that, and then draw a line under that period, and then we move into the next period. And obviously the next period is the stuff that I'm doing now with Cat Academy, the stuff that I've been doing with John for Hot Dude House when we're up and running with that again, the video stuff, etc., etc. And there will be more writing. There will 100% be more blogging. There'll be more books, etc., etc. But this collection is up to this point. So it's, as I say, predominantly 2017, 2018, coming into 2019, and then we draw the line under that, and then we move into the next phase. So it's a mammoth collection. It's really awesome. I'm really excited for people to read this stuff and to reappraise this stuff, because I don't know. I mean, in terms of this space, I mean, Rollo Tomassi, of course, is a very prolific blogger, but his stuff is, and I'm not trying to in any way put myself on his level or anything like that, because obviously he's the godfather of the manosphere. My stuff is different to his, though, because his stuff is not game stuff, really. His stuff is about the gender dynamics. It's about the evolutionary biology beneath the way that men and women get together. It's about all of that stuff. My stuff touches on that, but my stuff is actually about game. My stuff is actually about, okay, so I went out on a Friday night. I went to this cheesy nightclub. I met this cute girl. She said this, I said that. XYZ happened. What can we learn from that? It's like hundreds and hundreds of examples of that. Okay. So this is really like a player's diary, if you like. It's like a player's journey through the trenches of the sexual marketplace, globally, from like Russia to Ibiza to the UK to America. I mean, it's, so it's much more game focused. It's much more actionable advice focused. It's not theoretical. It's a fun read. There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff I'm really proud of actually in there that I'd forgotten about. A lot of these articles that even I'd forgotten about. I really want to sort of get them out there again. So Rodolfo is saying, is it ebook or can we get a physical version? All right. So at the moment it's ebook only. However, I will look at doing a physical version. So hold that thought. At the moment, it's ebook only. So I'm going to do it as a PDF, and I'm getting it done as an Amazon file as well. But I don't think I'm going to sell it on Amazon. I'm just looking to sell it through my store on Gumroad, because, to be honest, I've got other books on Amazon, and it's obviously the sort of like predominant platform for books, but I don't think it really helps content creators who are making this kind of material particularly. It's sort of like, I mean, Roosh got banned from there. Other people haven't got banned from there, but I don't think it really pushes you out. I think it works well for certain types of books. I don't think their algorithms are particularly going to help somebody writing about game advice, to be honest. I think it's worked really well for Delicious Tacos, for his novel, his fiction stuff. I think it's working quite well for Ryan. But his book is more of a semi-memoir type thing. So anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna put it out on Gumroad. So the link's below anyway. You can have a look at it. I haven't filled out the sales page fully yet, but you can have a look at the graphics and stuff. Yeah. So the release date is June the 15th, which is next Monday. But you can pre-order today because the link is below. So the pre-order's up, but it won't drop until next Monday. You should make it an EPUB. Yes. Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm getting it done as an EPUB. So that will be available for sure. Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I just wanted to sort of collate all of that stuff because I think there's some great stuff there. I don't think people really want to be picking around somebody's blog from like 3 years ago trying to find these articles if they even knew they were there. I think it's really important for it to be out and available in a sort of an easily digestible form, if you like. So there's a whole like load of, I don't know, life experience and crazy kind of stories and adventures in there. It's really, really cool. It's a really interesting document to have as well for a period in one's life, when you're doing all of this stuff. But I mean, one thing I think is that all of this has taught me like loads and loads of stuff. But one thing I think that's really taught me is that if you want to create content, for a living, which is what I do, and obviously what other people I work with do, you really need to be living it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you really need to be sort of like actually out there in the trenches doing it in order to have that resonance with people. Because I think people can really sense it when it's real. Do you know what I mean? And all of the stuff in that collection is real. You know, it's real blood and guts. This is what it's like out there stuff. So yeah, it's really, it's powerful stuff, and I'm really pleased to be putting it out. I'm really excited. And that's going to be the last thing that I release for a little bit until we do CAD Academy again, which will be sometime later in the summer. So yeah, I'm putting this out. There's loads of gems in there. There's going to be stuff that you haven't seen before for sure. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. So that is sort of like a little bit of a potted history, I suppose, of my career in the space, and also some information on Renegade Dating Domination, which, as I say, comes out next Monday the 15th, but you can pre-order now on the link below. The other thing to say is that you will get it at a reduced price if you purchase either in the pre-order, which is now, or up until next Friday, because I'm launching it Monday is the official launch date, and then we have the first period where it's going to be at a reduced price. You're going to get 25% off the full cost of the book in that first week. After that, the price goes up. It's a reasonably highly priced item because there's just such a lot of material in there. So if you want to get it, if you want to grab it now and get that you're going to get that discount. The other thing to say is, because material in volume 1 has already been published as How to Get Hot Girls into Bed, which I'm discontinuing. If you've purchased Renegade Dating Blueprint, you will automatically get a 50% discount. So I'm going to be sending out a discount code to everybody who's purchased Renegade Dating Blueprint, giving them a 50% discount because they've already got volume 1 effectively. So if you're in that camp, then you will be getting the whole thing for half price. Okay. If anybody else has How to Get Hot Girls into Bed from Amazon and they can provide proof of purchase, you will also get a 50% off code. For everybody else, you haven't got it, then in this week and next week, you get a 25% discount off the whole package, and then it goes up to full price. So I hope that makes sense. Basically, it's on sale for everybody this week. Anybody who's got Renegade Dating Blueprint will get it 50% off anyway, but it goes up to full price at the end of next week. I think that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Any complexity there, I apologize for, but I really wanted to bring all of the best of into one collection. And I don't like the title of How to Get Hot Girls into Bed. I don't like the cover. I think it's a bit cheesy. So I wanted to put it into this new collection. So this is the definitive annals of the Troy Francis stuff from the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Yes, so that's good. So, for example, Mo, what I'm going to be doing later in the week, I'll be sending out an email to everybody who's purchased Renegade Dating Blueprint, and you guys will all get 50% off this because you've already got volume 1 in effect. So yeah. Michael Price, there's thoughts on James Tusk. Yeah, I mean, I like him. He's a good guy. I've never met him. I've actually seen him in passing in London because obviously he's around about in London. Well, I don't know where he is now. He travels a lot, but so funnily enough, right? So the cameraman that I work with here in London, he filmed my CAD Academy products. He's also filmed some of my live demonstrations and things. Is the same cameraman that James Tusk uses, and actually this guy's name's Dan. He's a cameraman and he's a YouTube specialist. He does filming for quite a lot of dating coaches on this side of the pond, sort of thing. And so Dan works with him a lot, knows him very well. I know him by repute, and yeah, I mean, he's solid. He's a good guy. I mean, he's obviously a very good looking guy, very well dressed, well presented. He's got those things going for him, but for everything I've seen of him, he certainly knows his day game. He certainly can teach it very, very well. So yeah, he's a cool guy. Maybe I'll get to meet him at some point. Fingers crossed. We'll see. Yeah. Okay. Look. Anyway, Any other questions? People just talking about supporting. I mean, like John says here, I mean, the reality is, I mean, all of these articles have been taken off ROK anyway. ROK itself, there's a few of my articles left up on ROK. And they're not even really the best ones, to be honest. All the really juicy ones that are about game aren't there anymore. They've been taken down, and they're in this new collection. But even saying that, ROK could get taken down at any moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, to be honest. I mean, I had a brief communication with Roosh a little while back, and I'd asked him to take some of my articles down, and he said he'd done it anyway because obviously his you know. What do you call it? His change to Christianity, etc., etc. Will he leave the rest of ROK up? I mean, who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down. So yeah, I mean, I think content creator, obviously, guys, if you want to support, it really helps me out if you buy my stuff. I mean, that's just the way it is, because I put out a lot of free content. I put out a lot of free content on this channel. I send out a free daily email. I do the podcast every week. I still post articles to the blog. There's a lot of stuff out there for free. And so the only way that guys like me make a living is if you purchase the stuff. So what I try to do is I put out a load of stuff for free. I do, lots and lots of live streams. I do lots of videos, loads of content that's absolutely 100% for free. And then some things I charge for. And that's sort of like the contract, I suppose, between us is like, I'm doing all this stuff for free. You can watch it. You don't have to buy anything, but just recognize that if you do purchase something, that really helps me out and enables me to keep doing this as well. That's the other thing. The other thing you have to remember about content creators is we're only able to do this because we get the support from the audience. So if you do want to support, then something like purchasing this collection is one way of doing that. Okay. But you don't have to purchase it. I mean, it's entirely up to you. It's a free country. Anybody can do what they like. But I don't run advertising on this channel. So my income in order to do this comes through the sale of these digital products. But listen, the other thing as well, they're high quality products. I mean, this isn't just a 20-page ebook that I've put together in 5 minutes. I mean, this is like serious stuff that's been created over the course of years and years and years in the trenches as well. So I'm really proud of a lot of this material, and you're going to love it. So it's a worthwhile purchase. But what can I say? It's down to each individual what they want to do. But support is always welcome for sure. And the other thing as well, a couple of people have said, is that it's valuable to have these things collected in a compilation, because otherwise you're sort of looking around on websites, things get taken down, it's hard to find, it's hard to do. So all I've done here is I've tried to compile these things and I've put them in some sort of order that makes sense, so that they serve you in a better way rather than just scrabbling around in archives and things trying to find it. Favorite opener. Hey, you look really cute. My name's Troy. I wanted to come and meet you. Is pretty much. I try to be upfront. I try to be direct. I don't like to mess around. So I tend to just go in with something like that. Okay, this is kind of interesting question. Thomas says, how relevant is cold approach in 2020? Rich Cooper says, chase excellence above women. How do you combine meeting goals while focusing on life's purpose? Well, actually, we were talking about this on Saturday on Rule 0. And my view is that you should focus on chasing excellence. I don't know above women or not, but you should certainly focus on chasing excellence. You should certainly focus on your mission, which is a bit of a cliche now, but you should certainly focus on something above just the chase for women. But I think cold approach is a skill. I mean, you've got to get it down, because otherwise you're leaving money on the table. And what Rich was saying on Saturday on Rule 0 was that, if he's out and about and he sees somebody that he's attracted to, he'll go up and make the approach and have a conversation. It doesn't mean he's spending hours and hours on it. It doesn't mean that he's neglecting his business to do it. But he has the skill set, and that's the important thing. The Art of Seduction, I think. The Art of Seduction is a great book. I vouch for it. John Modern Life Dating vouches for it. I think Rollo vouches for it. Fantastic book. Really, really, really worth getting. And I think that's it. Okay. All right, guys. Listen, I'm going to call it there because we've been on for over an hour. Thanks for tuning in. As I say, the link for pre-order is below. Renegade Dating Domination. You can pre-order now to secure that lower price. It comes out officially next Monday, June the 15th. I'll be doing some more promotion for it over the week. But yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's been a bit of an insight into what the collection's about, but also a bit of game, a bit of my life, and everything else. I will be back soon with another stream, and we'll talk about something a bit more game related. I might actually this week go through some of the material in the book, maybe some of the stuff, not even the Return of King stuff, maybe some of the stuff from my own website that's in that book, to give you a little bit of a flavor of some of the stuff that you can expect if and when you choose to purchase. So I'll leave it there for now. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Great to see you guys, and we will speak again very soon. Bye-bye.